Welcome to South Beach Strategy. Today we have two good friends of ours, Melissa and Ricky from Limitless XO. Ricky I've known for many years. Melissa I met through a good friend of mine, Michael Hernandez. Mike, what's up?
What's up?
Today we're gonna get down to the nitty gritty. I mean, Ricky I've known for years, so I guess Ricky we can start with you. You're a successful attorney, right? Many years.
I like to think so.
Yeah. So what got you into biohacking?
During my career as a class action attorney, one of the things I focused on was how can I be the best attorney possible? That meant that I sacrificed everything else, right? So I was sacrificing my body, I was sacrificing my mind, I was sacrificing free time that I could spend with friends and so forth. So while a lot of my friends were out, hanging out with each other and having a good time, I was grinding. Class action world was something that took over my life from when I was 26 years old until I was 33 years of age. When that happened, I realized that I had fully burnt out. And I'm not talking about burning out at both ends of the candle. I'm talking about all four ends, all right? So I stopped myself, my partner in the law firm, our families. We shut the firm down in 2016, and we moved to Dorado Beach in Puerto Rico. No emails, little phone, literally just stopped. And the reason for that was I wanted to make sure that I started getting back to the basics. I was having difficulty putting sentences together. That's how burnt I was. We had 4 class actions in addition to many other cases at the time. So I stopped. I hired a nutritionist. I hired a yoga instructor. I started focusing on working out. I started focusing on what I was eating. Back as a lawyer, the difficult part of being a lawyer, especially at my age, I was 26 years old as a class action attorney, is I had to entertain all the time. And Jay, you're in the same mindset of you've got to keep clients happy. This is one of those that the moment clients are no longer happy, they're going to somewhere else. So what did that mean? That meant steak dinners. That meant all of the sides, a bottle of wine, because they know who's paying for it, right?
Yeah.
So the bottles of wine are coming out, the scotch is coming out. Whether you don't want to drink that day or you do, if you're not having a drink with them, you feel like you're not building that camaraderie. So I did this for years, okay? So when I finally was able to stop, I had to look at myself and say, look, I have a daughter who's 1 year old and a new daughter that was just born. How can I now make sure that everything I've worked for, okay, the success is great. Financial success, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not everything, right? How can I now start becoming a better father? And what that means is I need to be healthy. I've got to be able to do things so I can run around with them. And also, I don't want them to grow up watching me and saying, oh, he's getting fat. He's not working out. He's always, out having dinners with clients and so forth. So I started getting into this. And when I started getting into it, Jay, you know me pretty well. I start obsessing about what I'm learning about. So it wasn't just say, let me just get healthy. It was like, I want to learn everything about this. How do I get healthy? And all of my friends around, it started spreading. Like, if I'm doing something for 6 months, 7 months, I'm now making sure my friends around me are cutting out bad habits, and I'm going into these new routines that I'm having. So, long answer for you, but why did I get into this? It's because I fully burned out. I was successful as an attorney, and I had to pivot and make sure, okay, I'm in my 30s now. How can I now extend the quality of my life going forward?
We have a lot to unpack there. And one thing I want to get into before I forget, because this was always for me, it wasn't the success for you, but it was the giving back that you did from the very beginning. I think before a lot of the entrepreneur stuff came, you were giving back from the beginning with the
Right.
4 Kids Foundation, right?
Yes, and you've been a part of it too, Jay. So thank you for all that you've helped with. When this was in the very, very beginning, so the first class action I had was the BP oil spill, okay? Myself, my partner went from negative $150,000 in student loan debt. So when you hear about your families and friends talk about, I came to this country with $7. Listen, you had $150.7 more than I did, okay? I was negative in that, right?
And student loans,
In
probably
student
too, right?
loans. I mean, my family were refugees.
Right.
There was nothing. No one had gone to high school. So when we graduated, we were in debt. When the BP oil spill case came along and we were able to get out of debt and start taking care of our family, the first thing I told my partner, Wes Farrell, was, I want to start doing what my father wasn't able to do because he didn't have the resources. And that was, how do we make sure that we leave this earth doing better than when we were here? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, agreed.
And so I looked at all these organizations. Jay, you know this as a very successful person. The moment you start making money, everyone starts coming out. Give me money for this. Give me money for this. Every charity, things I didn't even know existed. And so I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus solely on children's causes. Children cannot change what has been given to them. We can change our diets. We can, the things that we do impact.
Surgery in Miami.
Yeah, we can fix things, right? Children kind of dealt the cards that they're given. So I started volunteering at the Miami Children's Hospital. So this wasn't just writing checks. It was going in there every single week in oncology, working with the patients, doing pizza parties, like anything. Anytime that I had a moment, I was disappearing from law and going into the hospital for an hour and a half, and I built some of my greatest relationships there, okay? That slowly led to becoming the chairman of the Nicholas Children's Hospital and building the foundation It's for the Kids, where I've allocated a vast amount of the money that I've made into now helping out in multiple states across the United States on helping children out without red tape, without any of this, Jay, we always talk about how we're always complaining about the government's not helping with this and that, and this was one of those where I said, I can help with this part. We don't have to rely on that. Children, we can go ahead and help with that. So that was the first thing that happened before we started really doing well, was how can I now do this for purpose? How do I, that was the one thing that actually kept me grounded, to be honest with you.
So how did you end up in Haiti?
Haiti, wow. All right, so 2016, massive hurricane destroys Haiti, okay? And what do people do in America? And by the way, I love America, but I call things out as they are. People watch the news, and then they'll go on social media and be like, I can't believe this. They're talking about all the things that are happening, and they criticize this and that, and they continue on. Well, one of the things I did was my mom was telling me, I can't keep watching the news. Can you help me send some money to Haiti? Now, my mom isn't like a billionaire, and so what my mom does is she still to this day on my birthday gives me cash in a card and stuff. Like God bless this woman, just a beautiful.
What ethnicity are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm Indian.
Indian.
Yes,
oh,
yes,
nice, awesome. I want to visit India.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
you
a
can be
great
a whole bunch of different things, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
And my mom, Mel and I was speaking about this morning. Is just salt of the earth human, and she said, "Can you help me send $100 to Haiti?" And so I was like, "Wow, I'm sure I can figure this one out, right?" And so I did a post. It's like, "Hey, look at my mom! Like, how beautiful! She wants me to send $100. I'm gonna figure it out." And this is where God comes in. There's always these times. If you listen carefully, you hear it. I had a message from someone on Facebook that randomly came in and was like, "Hey, this pastor's going out to Haiti. Do you have anything that you want to donate and so forth?" And I was like, "Actually, I'll be right back." So I go ahead. I message my assistant. I was like, "Hey, listen, my mom's sending this. I'm gonna send $1,000. Go buy some stuff and let's send it over there." So she goes and buys all the stuff with my mom, takes selfie, and so I put it up and I was like, "Hey, look, this is what my mom's doing." Jay, I'm not kidding you. The next day, I get to my office and it is filled. Every one of my friends showed up and filled my office up like it was Salvation Army, okay? And so now I'm like, we have a problem because this isn't like just sending some goods. And so I was like, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work with this pastor that's going over there, and I'm going to make sure any of these goods. But whoever wants to send stuff, you have 4 days to do so.
Awesome.
So my clients from Houston, Texas, okay, these hotel owners, they put together 4 U-Hauls and drive it from Houston, Texas to Miami, and they stay at families' houses all the way until they get over. They show up with these U-Hauls and a bag of $10,000 in cash. Now, Indians are heavy on cash. If it's your birthday, it's cash. It's everyone gets cash. So every house that they went to, people were like, "Hey, you're doing this? Let me give. So they come by, and I remember it was like 10:55 p.m., something like that, and Sam's Club was closing, okay? So whatever it was, 5 minutes before it's closing, and we walk in with a bag of $10,000 in cash, okay? I just want you pictures. Myself and a bunch of Indians in some U-Hauls outside. Yeah. You could not see something shadier than this, okay? Yeah. And we're like, "Hey, we need to buy all this stuff for Haiti." And the workers in Sam's Club decided to stay an hour after, okay? Instead of like shutting down, and we filled up all the stuff. So 2 40-foot containers were filled up, which is a substantial amount. Nice. You have 40-foot containers. And I was like,
you don't know how to get there.
and so I talked to the pastor. I was like, "Listen, I trust you. I've known you for like 2-3 weeks. I'm sure this is going to go." I was like, "But everyone that's involved in this, I can't just send it. I need to go." And he's like, "No, listen, you're going to get robbed." I was like, no, it's fine. I'll justify. I'll do whatever you need me to, right? And so 2 weeks later, I'm in Haiti. Wait. But I'm in Haiti where there's like it looks like a war zone, like a full war zone. Like we get out there.
What city?
In Cap Haitian was one of them that we went to, and then Port-au-Prince we went to right after that, okay? And we're driving around. We get to like this rugged house, and the pastor's like, listen, we have these kids, but can we bring in more kids? And I was like, yeah, let's feed them. I didn't realize that he meant, can we like have them come live with us, okay?
What?
So we take a pickup truck, no jokes, a pickup truck, and we're driving to churches, and the churches are like, hey, here's 3 kids, and they're putting them in the back of our truck like they're giving us supplies, okay? I'm sobbing away. I'm looking at this like, hey, man, I was supposed to just deliver some supplies. I've got like real living human beings that just got placed in the back of our truck. We get to 42 Haitian children, and the pastor's like, okay, so what should we do? What should we do? Man, we just picked them up. Like, when do we drop them off? Like, where's home, you know?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, these are ours now. These are our kids now. So I'm like, oh, man, we have a problem here. Like, we've got to figure this out. Like, all these kids, I don't know if they're sick. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if their parents are looking for them, okay? These were just kids that were dropped off at the churches. So we have food now. But the thing is, as you know,
the containers were filled mostly with food or
tons
stuff.
of food and medicine, so forth. But here's the thing, Jay, you know this. You do a lot of transportation. Just because I arrived in Haiti doesn't mean that all of our supplies arrived in Haiti and cleared, right?
Oh my God!
So I've got all the stuff at the ports. I'm over here, and I'm like, where do we go buy food? And he's like, there's places. So I'm like, okay, here's Ricky with a credit card in Haiti. Okay. Number one, there's
a black card walking around.
There's like in a pickup truck. This just gets wild, right? And so the only thing I you can't make this up. The only thing I was able to buy is we showed up at this one grocery store that looked like it had been ransacked, and there's a guy walking out with this big cake, okay, like a big cake, and I was like, hey, is there food in there? And he's translating with the guy, and he's like, no, it's like, I'll buy the cake, and he's like, no. I was like, listen, how much you pay for the cake? And he's like, $9 US, which he probably inflated, by the way. And I was like, listen, hear me out. I'll buy the cake from you. I'll give you $20 right now, okay? Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, I can't. And I was like, Pastor, talk to this guy. I need a cake right now. I need
you
some
gotta
food.
feed them something.
I need something, okay? And the guy's like, no. I was like, listen to me. Here. I'm gonna give you $200. And the guy starts shaking, okay? And then Pastor looks at me and laughs. He's like, it's his wedding cake, you know? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, all right. And the pastor's like, so let's go find it. And I was like,
he didn't take the 200?
No, listen. So the pastor's like, so we have to go somewhere. This is his wedding. He's getting married. This is his wedding cake. He literally picked it up. That's why the guy's shaking. He's like, I could use the money, right? And so the pastor's like, let's go to the next grocery store and, figure this out. And I was like, I'll give you $300. And the guy goes,
bye.
He gives me the cake. He gives me the cake. You know what I didn't realize was, and there was a lot of ignorance because I didn't understand a lot of stuff. When I got there and we gave it to these kids, it was the first time they tasted sugar. And so they were looking at each other like,
what the hell is this?
And why is it cold? They'd never tasted anything cold, and they'd never had sugar before. And it was the first time that I saw these kids go from a depressed, sad state to it was like the soul came back in. It was like God was like, this is how we start this journey. From then, I adopted all of those children. They're all mine. I'm the guardian of them. I bought 2 houses.
How many?
I have 42 children.
Wow.
I have teachers, I have chefs, I have security. Blackwater is actually our security.
Right.
And also today we have with us Melissa Hernandez, the mind, energy, and human side of optimization, along with a little life-saving experience, right? From the airline. I saw something about that on the news, so we're going to get into all that today with our 2 guests here at South Beach Strategy. All right, so I want to go back into what we were discussing there because, I mean, I know that it's a little off topic, but it kind of all comes back around. And again, it's, when you're giving back you're giving back, it's important because I think a lot of people, we've had a lot of people come on this show that are very successful, but very few have had stories of giving back.
Right.
And I think that when people hear this story, and I want them to picture an Indian in Haiti.
Absolutely.
With a truckload of 42 kids in the back. Roaming around trying to look like he fits in.
Right.
And I guess the question from your story that I was kind of wondering is, were there not places why did you have to bribe this guy? There wasn't a store that you could go in and with $300 you would have bought the whole store.
So at that time, what happened was when you have shipments that come in, they fill up the grocery stores. But because of the hurricane that went through, it had stopped the ports, it had stopped transportation, roads were destroyed. So it's not that the stores were just empty. Because when we went back, a lot of the grocery stores started having food and so forth. It's just everything had shut off. So think about in Miami, when there's a hurricane, and people try to get all the supplies, it's just because certain routes are going to be shut off for a bit, right? Now you can go ahead and multiply that by 10 folds of when it happens in these areas like Haiti and so forth.
I have a question. Can I ask a question, Jay?
Yes, of course, always.
So, Jay, that was a great intro. Awesome background, by the way. Here at South Beach Strategies, we talk about the grind and how we got to where we are in this world, specifically here, Miami. Could you tell our audience a little bit about where you started, kind of your journey, just like a summarized vibe?
I'm going to do this as fast as possible, okay? So time this, because I've tried to do this as short and condensed as possible. So I'll tell you, and then you let me know what you want to know from there, okay? All right, so my family were refugees from Uganda, Africa, okay? They moved to London, England. I was born in London, England. My parents in 1995 were reading a newspaper, as they did back then. In there was an article that said, Africans get expedited visa to the United States. My parents looked at me and said, we have African passports. We are African. Should we go ahead and apply for these visas? They applied. 6 months later, my dad has received visas to come to the United States as Africans for us. And we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, okay? America was the promised land. It was the greatest place on earth. Anyone that mentioned even visiting there, it was a dream. So to be able to move over here was great. My parents started working in gas stations and laundromats. There was no formal education. I had wanted to be a lawyer since I was a young child. My mom still has on her wall a piece of paper where I couldn't write the word lawyer or justice or anything else. But for some reason, I wanted to be those things, okay? I go to undergrad at Florida State University for one reason. I didn't know what Florida State was. I didn't know about the Seminoles. I didn't know about football or anything, right? Because over there we played cricket, soccer. I went there to study under Professor Galately, and my major was on genocide prevention. That led me to go study at Oxford University and study genocide prevention throughout Europe and find out how can we stop genocides around the world. It was the most depressing major anyone has ever had in college. While my buddies are out getting drunk, I'm reading about like deaths in Rwanda and so forth.
No, that's
right?
a serious major.
It's serious.
I didn't even know that was a major.
It's crazy.
Well, how did you even get into that major?
Yeah, so it started from like my parents in Uganda, and I wanted to find out like why was it that these people were expelled out, and that led to learning a little bit more about what happened in other areas of Africa. And so during the 90s, that's when the Rwandan genocide happened. So news wasn't 24-hour news back then. We had 1 hour where all the news around the world was given to you. You had a blip. But it was, hey, how did 800,000 people get killed and no one did anything? That kind of spiraled into let me learn. And then I started jumping into the Holocaust. And from there, I started learning about like the Khmer Rouge and all these other places and finding out how in this world do we allow for mass killings? Like, and it's not just a mass killing. Remember, a genocide we have to define as it's the killing of a race intentionally for that. It's not for land grab and so forth. That was the purpose of it was to eradicate, right?
How did we allow, or they are still allowing?
And that's the big thing. And that's I'm so glad you brought that up because it hasn't gone away. It has not gone away. I did the memorial for Raphael Lemkin, who created the term genocide, and I thought that the moment that term was created, that we as the world would come together whenever we saw something like this happening, and it hasn't. It still happens today, and it will still happen tomorrow. But I started studying that, and I thought I was going to become a human rights lawyer. I ended up going to St. Thomas University, studying under Professor Wiesner. So there's two phenomenal human rights law schools in America. One is St. Thomas, the other one is Notre Dame, okay? My second year of law school, I realized the only person I've ever heard of in my whole life who is a human rights lawyer is George Clooney's wife, and I'm not George Clooney's wife. So what am I going to do once I graduate? Like, I have a bit of a problem, right? So I diverted into immigration. And I don't know if you guys know this, but you don't have to be an immigration lawyer to actually try the cases. So as a law student in St. Thomas, I was trying cases with my professor for Violence Against Women's Act, Asylum Acts, case against the FARC in Colombia. Like, I'm actually like little me from law school.
Practicing.
I'm in there, and I'm like in trial for this, right? So I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to become an immigration lawyer. I graduate, okay? Dead 50 percentile. Like, if you had the broad spectrum, like, and you hit bullseye right in the middle, I was a 50 percentile, okay? And during this time, I was working. I was doing everything I could. I studied hard. The economy collapses. The economy collapses. Like, forget getting a job. Everyone's firing, okay? So myself and my best friend, we put together $500. $500 was a lot of money, okay? We started our own law firm. When we started our own law firm, for the first 6 months, we were making about $600 a month. That doesn't cover your student loans. So student loans being forbear, there's all types of nonsense going on here, okay? I'm starting to question, like, what am I doing? My parents are just like, Hercules. They think, like, my son's a lawyer, so he's like, he's going to be rich now, right? Not knowing, like, hey, I can't pay my cell phone bill. Like, I can't, hey, mom, everything's going great. Yeah. I got to get off the phone. There's not enough minutes on the phone, right? So they're, like, super proud of this. And then what happened is, I'm a firm believer in this, and I want to make this really, really a big point, okay? In every single person's life, there is an intersection where you either say you're going to do something or you don't. Sometimes you don't even recognize it's going to happen. But a path is given to every single person in this world. It may be as a child, it may be later in your life, and that changes the complete trajectory of your life. Some people never recognize to this day what that was. Mine was, I was at a Hotel Owners Association event where I ran into a guy who was running for Attorney General for the state of Florida. I told him that I would help him out however I could because I was appointed as the youngest member of St. Thomas's Board of Advisors right as I graduated, because they were all like 60, 70, and they were like, let's throw this young Indian guy in here, right? So that was all I had. I didn't have a reputation. I didn't have money. I didn't have any of this stuff. And so I told this guy, Dave Ehrenberg, who was the state attorney of Palm Beach, hey, whatever I can do to help. And he's like, oh, maybe you can do a fundraiser. I agreed to it because I didn't know what fundraiser was, and I didn't realize that you have to raise funds, okay? So first part of the problem. So I called my partner, Wes Farrell, who's still like grinding, trying to collect money from these crazy cases that we have. Literally, like, we'll spend 500 hours on a case and collect $200-300 on it. That's where we were at, okay? Working out of his mom's house. Hey, we're going to do a fundraiser for Dave Ehrenberg. And he's like, what do you mean? Where are we going to get the money from? I was like, no, it's not like that. And he's like, no, you have to raise funds. It's a fundraiser. He's like, so how much? And I was like, oh, let me call him up. So I call. He's like, no worries. You guys just graduated from law school. Even if you raise like $6,000-7,000. Now I'm thinking, we don't have that. If we sold everything off that we have, we don't have that, right? So I called everyone in our law school. Everyone. I was like, listen, you guys got to show up. This guy's going to be Attorney General. I have no idea if he is. No idea. They all show up to Wes's mom's house. Wes's mom's making meatballs and like all this stuff. His cousin who knew how to play piano, he's out there like playing the fucking piano. And 200 people showed up. And with 200 people showing up, the chair of the Democratic National Convention showed up to his house. And this guy who was there, his name was Chris Corge, ended up saying to me, hey, why don't you come by 2 days later to my place in Pinecrest? So I was like, maybe I'll make some contacts. By the way, my buddies from law school all bring $20-30 in. It was a joke. If anyone had seen what was happening in that, we raised the $7,000. You
guys raised $7,000?
We raised $7,000. I still don't know.
How many people were there?
200 people.
Holy shit.
Literally, everyone was like $20-30. It was like a homeless shelter. Like we were like anyone, like, you know. Our fear was that if we didn't raise the $7,000, that this guy was going to take our lives. It was just crazy. It was like this fear, right? Yeah. I show up at Chris Corge and Andrew Corge's house 3 days later. This beautiful mansion. And they've got all this food spread out and so forth, and they talk to me about, hey, we want you to fundraise with us. And I was like, nah, I know what that means now. I was like, no, listen, I owe people favors for the rest of my life from now. I'm not going to do it. And they're like, no, listen to me. Just work with us on this. We're going to fundraise for the president. And I was like, the president of what? And they were like, Barack Obama. And I started moving my chair back. I was like, listen, guys, if you saw what's in my bank account right now, this food and stuff wouldn't be here. I'm telling you, I'm not being humble. Yeah. Like, I can't do that. And they're like, no, we just got to raise $100,000. I was like, I don't think you guys understand. Like, this conversation, I know it's like you're trying to convince someone, but it's just not. Mm-hmm. And so they convinced me to do it, okay? And so they put a sheet in front of me that shows, in order to eat with Barack Obama, it was like $36,000 a plate and so forth. And my question is how ignorant I'm like, what are they serving for $36,000? Yeah. Not understanding that it's a seat at table. They can serve nothing, right? Yeah. So the Hotel Owners Association that I was at, they represent over 65% of all the hotels, motels in the United States. They all have the same last name as me, Patel. Okay? They're all Indian. I just wasn't part of Lucky Sperm Club. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I had the last name. Yeah. And the one thing with me is if you give me a spec, I will run with it, you know? So I called them all up. I was like, hey, man, listen, you want to have dinner with the president? I'm calling them up like these guys are going to think I'm crazy, right? And so a week before the event at the Adrian Arch Center, I raised like 40-something thousand bucks, okay? And I sent it to them, and I remember, I think it was Andrew Corge was like, oh, man, I'm really disappointed. I thought that you would be able to raise 100. And I'm like, which part did I not make clear? Yeah. Like, you know? And so he asked me, remember, I'm 26 at the time. He's like, send me your driver's license and social security card. Who would you send? You wouldn't send that to anyone. Right. I'm like, here you go. Yeah. I sent it over to him, not knowing anything. And they're like, okay, I'll see if I can't get you a pass to watch the president speak or something. So I get a pass. I go up to Adrian Arch Center, walk into this big room. There's bars in the corners. There's like lobster stations and all this stuff. I arrive 15 minutes early, okay? I'm in there with the pass. And so I start making friends with the bartenders, everyone with food. I'm in there for 2 hours by myself, okay? And I'm like, where's everyone else at? All of a sudden, doors open. Boom, okay? Secret Service comes in, Barack Obama, his team, and I shit myself. Because I'm like, oh my God, I went in the wrong room. I think I've been eating the president stuff. I've got 6 plates. I've got 6 plates. I ate all, like, as many lobsters and caviar. I'm best friends with these guys. I'm taking shots. I'm like, whatever, right? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm turning pale white. And so I'm like, I'm thinking, like, there's going to be a problem. Because if they ask me to pay for this now, we got a big problem, right? And so then all of a sudden I hear, hey, I'd like to introduce you, Mr. President, to the youngest member of your National Finance Committee. And I'm like, where the fuck is he at? I start looking around the room. Like, where's it? And so he's like, come over here. Like, get over here, you know? And so I walk over. I'm shaking, okay? I'm here. Barack Obama's over there. He shakes my hand. He starts making some jokes. To this day, I still don't know what was going on or why I agreed to or what I said. But he was just talking, and I'm thinking, this is a dream. This isn't real. Yeah. And so afterwards, I speak with Corge. I was like, hey, man, what just happened? And he's like, well, you raised $1.63 million. And I was like, no, I didn't. No, I know I didn't. Yeah. And he's like, no, you did. He did. He pulls out like this thing. It was a tablet, but it wasn't like the iPad back then, right? And I was like, I didn't do that. And he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, I don't know what it is about you. He's like, I put down all the money that everyone raised, and I put it under your name. He's like, hopefully you do something good in the future. And from that moment, I was on Barack Obama's National Finance Committee. I was with the president every 6 months. And here's where it happens. And it's a long story, so I apologize for the length, but it all leads to your question. A month after that was the largest oil spill in U.S. history, which was the BP oil spill. And the hospitality industry got destroyed. And the Hotel Owners Association 2 weeks before asked me, because now I'm working with the president, to represent the Hotel Owners Association. And so from there, we signed up these clients because they were like, this is one of our guys. He's got access. He knows what he's talking about. And we had 3,500 clients that signed up that made $250,000 each almost, right? On average. That is how we got to that point. And then from there, we took on other class actions. We changed rape laws in America. We created bad faith statutory fee laws in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, there were no bad faith laws to protect the people in Puerto Rico. We changed the laws over there.
I'm Puerto Rican, holla. Thank you.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I love Puerto Rico's home. Always home. Always home. But what we did was we now no longer needed to take cases that we didn't believe in, and we put all of our resources into how do we take cases that we actually believe in. And that led to us, for success purposes, financial success was BP. But after BP, I would say it was success in the way that we were able to use our law degrees and our ethics to change the things around us.
So you have a good run at being a successful lawyer, philanthropist, politics. So what led into biohacking?
Biohacking, man. Let me tell you something, okay? There's a lot of people in this country who, especially in the United States, out of anywhere in the world, that when something happens, you go to the doctor, and doctors in med school are taught within a box of, here's medicine. Oh, you feel like this? Here's medicine. Medicine for everything, okay? Medicine is not created to cure you. These are synthetics that are created to either change the way you feel, but the ailments are still there. And so when I started looking at this and I started realizing about what stem cells and exosomes are, and why I started realizing this is my brother got very, very sick, okay? And when he got sick, he went from 180 pounds to 97 pounds, and he wasn't able to walk. His stomach, his intestines, everything was all messed up. And my parents were kind of like, look, my brother's 1 year older than me, like the love of my life. I love my brother more than anything. And they were like, we don't know what's going to happen here. He can't eat. He's completely given up on life. The doctors keep doing surgeries. They can't fix this. So I told my brother, I'm going to take you with me to Costa Rica to do ayahuasca and have stem cells. That was the first time it happened. Both of those things intertwined. When my brother had stem cells, he had to be golf carted around. He couldn't take more than 20, 30 steps. He couldn't take more than a couple hundred calories a day, okay? After he had stem cells, 3 days later, he canceled his trip back from Costa Rica. He went hiking, kayaking. He was boating around.
How long did it take to...
24 hours.
In 24 hours.
In 24 hours, he had...
stem cell treatment.
The way how he explains it is that he had so much energy that he was tired, but he couldn't stop moving, okay? He gets back home. He's walking around, okay? And now, within 6 months of when we had stem cells to that point, he's now put on weight. He opened up a UPS store. He runs the business with himself. He moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. If you see him today, you cannot tell what is happening. And his doctors say, oh, it's because of the surgeries we did and all this other stuff. It wasn't. We have something natural, that's created within this great technology of body that we have that allows the body to heal, not to place medicine to actually cover up. Do you see what I'm saying?
So Melissa, we gotta. I want to catch you
Yeah,
up
yeah, yeah.
so we can bring both roads together.
Yes.
Give us your background.
Okay, so my name is Melissa Hernandez. I'm a nurse practitioner by trade. I've been in healthcare for about 15 years. I did my undergraduate at Nova Southeastern University. I worked at a very known local hospital for 10 years, and then I decided to go back to get my master's degree. I'm a board-certified adult gerontology acute care nurse practitioner from the University of Miami. And I was working in the surgical ICU at Jackson for the last 6 years. And that's kind of, I think, where you saw the video that Michael sent. And, my whole life, really, career, I've been dedicated to helping people and saving people. And, I work in an intensive care where you see the sick of the sickest, right? And I've always really had a passion for aesthetics and wellness. And it really wasn't until I became a mom. I'm a mom of 3. I have a 18-year-old bonus daughter. I have a 10-year-old son who he was born prematurely, and he has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy and autism. And later on in life, we had another child with a 3-year-old. And it really was when me becoming a mom that really shifted my change and like my career path, right? Like I was there like 9 months pregnant. I have a special needs child. I have an 18-year-old who's finishing high school, and I'm like, they need me. They need me. Like, I can't spread myself thin anymore. Like, I have to be present for, events, for therapies. My son does therapies Monday through Saturday, and I need to be present. And so the idea of creating the business that I did at Vanity Point Wellness was an aesthetic business, was to help people feel good about themselves, right? As you know, in Miami, we live in a very vain city. Everyone wants to look young. No one wants wrinkles. Everyone wants to look pretty, and they want to feel younger, right? So that's where Vanity Point was born. And we added the wellness part later on because we're like, beauty is skin deep. If you're not fixing yourself from within at a cellular level, fixing your gut, your mind, what is this worth? Like, what, there's no purpose to it if we're not fixing ourselves, right? And that's kind of where we took off about 3 years ago. And then I was introduced to Ricky about was it a year ago, more or less, and he calls me one night. We have a mutual friend, and she'd been talking to me about Ricky forever. She's like, this amazing guy, you have no idea, he's a wealth of knowledge. Can I share the story of how we met? Can I share the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to hear the stories.
Can I say
so we're here for.
No.
Okay, fine. So,
Nah, you can't leave nothing off the table. You gotta give it, we need everything. We need all the juice.
This is actually a compliment,
Okay?
Okay? Because he hasn't seen it, so he
Don't
doesn't
ask
see
Ricky.
it.
Okay,
Just go.
Okay, so I get a call at 10 o'clock at night. I'm in bed, like, I put my kids down, and I get a call, and, Ricky has this accent, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, hi, my name is Ricky Patel. I'm Jen's friend. And I was like, oh, I'd heard about him. I've heard so many good things about him. And he starts telling, and I know he's an attorney, but he starts going into this medical rampage, and I'm like, what is this guy?
At 10 p.m.
And I put him on speaker. My husband has no idea. He's like, first of all, he's like, who the hell is calling you at 10 o'clock at night? I put him on speaker so he can listen, so I don't have to regurgitate this information. And so I'm here like, and he's talking to me about exosomes, about stem cell and regenerative medicine, and really like kind of, tapping into a branch that I was already interested in. It's not really like it's known, but it's not well known enough. Like, to find something legitimate, something that really helps. Like, it's not, you can't just Google it. You know what I mean? So he's like, we'll talk later. So I'm like, let me look this guy up. And I look up Ricky Patel. You see, like, successful attorney. Like, he owns bars. He owns barbershop. Philanthropist. Have you seen the Tinder Swindler?
No.
The show? Oh my God!
Thank you.
So then you're not gonna get the pun, okay? So the Tinder Swindler, it's a documentary of this. It's a real story. This guy who, like, I don't even know, he swindled these women to give him millions of dollars, right?
And you thought that was Ricky?
But no, you know what it is that this man, he seduces you with his words. And Ricky's just so good with his words. Like, you just listen to him. I listen to him speak, and I'm like, oh my God, he's so smart. And like, he just seduces you with his words, and not in a romantic way, right? Just like everything, like his stories. There's always like, you know, a story behind the story, and that's kind of where our relationship took off. And then, you know, a couple of weeks later, we linked up again. We met, and we actually met at Giselle physically. And then we talked about exosomes and stem cells, and then his cause for children, right? And I have a disabled child, and then like he taps into like my weakness, which is my son, and he's like, this is what I do. I help children, and you know, he's talking about these things that he's seen in children with autism, with children with neurological disabilities, which is everything. It's like if he's talking to me, right? And I think every time Ricky and I talk, I'm in tears.
Yeah, because at this point, you have no idea that Ricky has 42 kids in Haiti.
I didn't know.
I didn't know about his child. I was talking about what he's
because you're experiencing this on the live.
Yeah, we're like looking at each other, and there's like tears running down my face, and I think like he's a little uncomfortable. My husband's like smiling because he's like he sees that hope, or you know, in my eyes. And then I'm like, whatever you need from us, we are in, you know. And I learned so much.
This was at the 10 p.m. call?
No, this was like a week or two later. When I already was like, I verified with my friends. I was like, I called her up right after, and I was like, how well do you know this guy? She's like, really well. I'm like, is he really a lawyer? She goes, I saw him graduate law school. I was like, okay, so he's like legitimate, just because of like his, you know, his swag, like for lack of a better word.
Because he achieved so much success so young that you don't believe it's even real.
It's exactly like, you know, he's just knows so much, and his success and everything that he does. Like, I don't know anybody else that does.
You don't know anybody else that finessed Obama?
No, thank you, literally. And he thought he was eating his lobster, right?
Okay, hold on. We're getting too ahead, so we need to back this up.
Okay.
You graduate from?
I graduated from the University of Miami with my master's degree. I'm an adult gerontology acute care nurse practitioner.
So you're working somewhere.
So I'm working I've always worked at a hospital.
Got it.
Yeah.
I want to lay some groundwork as to what your background is.
Yeah. And
so
then,
you're working somewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm no longer working at a hospital, but I was at the time when I graduated, to become a nurse practitioner, to transition into that role from nurse to provider. And that's really was always my ultimate goal. And it really wasn't, like I mentioned, it wasn't until I became a mom that I was like, okay, I need to do something else that I can do everything, right? I couldn't take my children to school. I was missing birthdays, holidays. I was like, there's gotta be something that I can do that, you know, I'm obviously not a stay home. My husband always says it. He's like, all
you
these
guys
times.
are married already at this time?
No, we weren't married. We were. Yeah, it's a different story.
But it's important because it plays a role. We ask about marriages is important when you're having a business, you know?
And
we want to lay that foundation down.
That's actually key because I was still a nurse when him and I met. Actually, I was a nurse practitioner looking for a job.
You guys met and you were not an entrepreneur yet.
Not yet.
Got it.
And it really wasn't until I just had the baby and I was like, I was going through some postpartum depression. I wasn't myself. And I knew that these are the things that come with pregnancy. I just didn't feel good, and I wanted to be more involved. I knew my day was coming to return to the hospital, working night shift, 12-hour shifts at night, and I was dreading it. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. And my husband looks at me and he says, do it. And like I had told him, this is what it's gonna cost, the education behind it. And he goes, do it. I hadn't worked for 4 months, and he's like, I don't care, do it. He's like, you're not gonna regret this. And I was like, are you sure? Like, this is a lot of money. I haven't worked in 4 months. He's like, if you ask me one more time, I'm going to tell you no. So just do it, you know? And so I went in, I invested my time, money, sacrifice not being there for my children once again to be able to achieve entrepreneurship. And then, Michael and I sitting in our closet at 10 o'clock at night after a hospital shift thinking, all right, what's our plan? What are we going to name this? What are we going to name your baby? What's the plan? How are we going to, what's going to be our plan with social media? What are we going to do with medication? We need a medical director. We need this, we need that. Like literally every single day, every single night in our closet, once we put the kids to bed, planning our future with Vanity Point.
Vanity Point, and that's when you gave birth to Vanity Point.
I gave birth to Vanity Point, and then we added the wellness with the idea that this eventually, we would get into the wellness space.
So now you're in entrepreneurship. You have Vanity Point, and now you guys are linking up.
Yep.
And that's when we're starting to work on the biohacking, right? And from your perspective, what's the difference between biohacking for men and women? Is there a difference?
I'll let Ricky answer that. He's usually the wealth of knowledge when it comes to this.
The core of it is sleep. Right? This is the one thing where All you have to do is just lay down and the biohacking happens. And Jay, let me explain one of the biggest things to you. When we think about supplements, food, diet, working out, all of these things, right? If I removed one of these things for 30 days, what would happen to you? If I removed food from your system, okay, your body would actually get better, okay? Your body has a chance to stop digesting. Once it stops digesting, the stem cells naturally in your body can start fixing, healing, removing toxins and so forth. You'll be fine, okay? If you stop working out for 30 days, it will impact you, but you're gonna be fine, okay? If you stop taking your supplements, you may feel groggy. If you stop sleeping for 30 days, you will die. Let that sink in. You will die. And there's no science behind why. It's not because of fatigue or something. They don't know why, but there's a certain point where everything just says off, finished. So biohacking for men and women, there's so many things that are core, that are together. Now, the things that are different are if you're talking about certain peptides, if you're talking about cold plunging, if you're talking about, there's certain things that there are slight differences in there, but the core of it, even strength training, okay? Muscle, we're now learning that muscle isn't just look good. I mean, Jay, you're extremely fit and you look great with your muscles.
Thank you.
But that helps immensely. Okay, you putting on muscle, the same as Mel putting on muscle, helps with glucose levels. It helps with diabetes. It helps with anti-aging. As far as the more muscle you have, it also your metabolic rate and it helps with a lot more things than just looking good, right? So with men and women, I would say that there's very few things that are different, but the core of it, I would say, is probably like 90%. Which we wouldn't thought before. And I'll give you an example before going too deep into this. But you remember 20 years ago when people mentioned the word creatine, okay? And it was like, well, I'm working, I'll get pumped with creatine. And now, creatine is the most studied supplement in history. We have more data on creatine than anything else. And we're realizing men and women should both be on creatine. Everyone. My mom, my grandmother's on it. Everyone's on it, okay?
Ricky's got me on creatine.
Everyone. It is crazy. Like what the body needs creatine for.
Yep, every morning.
And what I want to do also on this podcast is we use terms all the time, but I want to do something where we simplify it. Because we hear creatine, we hear inflammation, we hear all these, and so we kind of say, we know this word, continue on, but let's actually explain what this is. What is creatine, okay? Creatine's required for the brain. It's actually 1 gram created in the brain and in the liver, and that helps with turning your energy in your body. It goes from what's called ATP, it burns it, okay? And then once it burns ATP, that turns to ADP, and then it's done. Creatine reverts it back from ADP to ATP, okay? So you're now getting more energy to your cells and so forth. So it's not just about muscle and increasing your lifts, but brain energy. When you hear about people who are depressed, anxiety, stress, and they're like, I don't know why, things going well, but I feel that, you're not getting enough energy to your brain too. Creatine allows, at a certain point, if you take over this, there's like 5 grams for your body, but if you take up to 10 grams, there's all these studies that show your brain is getting more now. It's the only thing out there also that if you destroy your sleep, so you're jet lag, I mean, you travel a lot, Jay. If you're jet lag and you go ahead and take a higher dosage of creatine, it will help you get back to that point of if you had actually got rest. It's the only thing. If you're not able to do these things, your brain eventually starts eating itself up. So creatine, what we knew 20 years ago, where it was like, I'm going to work out, let me throw some powder, is now my grandmother, my mom, everyone around us uses it. It stabilizes, gives us the energy, reconverts that ADP to ATP, so you're getting that back in. Your cell health, your brain, your gut, and it's cheap. This isn't something that's an expensive medicine.
Yes.
It's cheap and it can help instead of just jumping right into like medicine for depression. Like there's so many of these little tips out there. And that's one of the keys why biohacking is important, because it's how do we game the system to find out, instead of just taking medicine, how do we find out something that tells your body to do what it's supposed to do? You see what I'm saying?
So in layman's terms, for somebody who has no idea, if
Yeah.
you had to explain to somebody what is biohacking,
Yeah.
what would you say?
Biohacking is naturally going within the body and making sure that we are functioning at the optimal rate. So it is making sure that your sleep, you're getting the best sleep possible. Your muscles are being able to grow at the rate and not reduce, okay? Because we deplete 3 to 8% every decade after 30. How do we prevent that, okay? How do we make sure that our glucose levels are fine? How do we make sure insulin levels? How do we make sure, if you're someone that drinks alcohol, okay? How do we prevent that oxidation from like impacting the body? What are things that you can do to tell your body, your natural cells, and I can get into exosomes, why exosomes actually do this, but how do we wake up your natural body to be able to fight off toxins, heal, and keep you strong. That is biohacking. It's making sure, this is the greatest technology in the world. Forget AI, forget all this stuff. The human body is the greatest technology ever. And one more thing, Jay. I do this every single morning. Every single morning that I wake up, before I get out of bed, I do a scan, head to toes, okay? I go through from every hair to my toes, and I go through and I say, thank you, thank you, thank you, to every part. Here's the reason why, okay? Have you ever broken a bone before?
Fracture.
Fracture. Okay, what did you fracture?
My ankle.
Okay, when you fractured your ankle, how pissed off were you for weeks? Right?
I was upset.
Okay, how are your ankles right now?
Perfect.
Have you been happy about them?
Yeah.
No, today did you wake up and say thank you, ankles?
No.
So
Should have.
what I'm trying to say is there's trillions of things that work perfectly, but the moment one thing of this technology doesn't, you're like, that damn ankle, now I can't walk, I can't do this. But think about what is working perfectly. You woke up today, you were able to open your eyes, you got your phone, you picked up, you had your shake, you went here, you're having this conversation. Yeah. Everything's working, right?
Yes.
We have this technology, it's like everything. There's trillions of things that have to work in order for us to even have a conversation, right? But biohacking is to make sure that we're not just throwing a Tylenol or some type of medicine inside of us to help fix, but what we're trying to do is to just go ahead and go to our own cells and say, hey, wake up, do better, improve. That's what biohacking is.
Okay, so for Melissa, you speak a lot about the nervous system, right?
Yeah.
So how does biohacking and that, how do they work together?
So the biohacking will help the nervous system. It'll help calm the nervous system.
So Limitless has been open for how long now?
Limitless has been open. We're going on a year now. Okay. We're going on a year here in Miami. It's been open in Charlotte for how long? What, 2 years before?
Yeah, and we've been dealing with exosomes and stem cells for 5 years.
So Limitless, you already had it from North Carolina,
Yes. Yep.
and then you decided to expand here
Yes.
and partner with Melissa to bring it to Miami.
Absolutely.
So what's the stigma with stem cells and bringing it to the U.S.? Like, we're not fully able to do that here yet, right?
So let me clarify. This is a great concern that people have. They believe that stem cells and exosomes are illegal. Okay, I'm going to explain this as best as possible. So stem
From
cells,
the lawyer.
Yeah. Stem cells and exosomes are not FDA approved. Okay, you know what else is not FDA approved are your protein shakes, creatine, and all these other things. Okay, however, exosomes and stem cells must still go through an FDA lab. Okay, now where does exosomes and stem cells come from? Right, because that's another big question that comes up. So healthy mother delivers a healthy child. There's the placenta and umbilical cord. Before, that was placed into toxic waste. Now it's donated. But in order to donate it, there's thorough testing. All the way to the point of if the mother has even had a COVID vaccine, they're not allowed to submit it. Once they provide the placenta and the umbilical cord, it goes to the FDA lab. From there, they extract the stem cells. The stem cells are what releases the exosomes, okay? I want to make this as clean as possible, okay? Stem cells are cells that can turn into any tissue. So they replicate. It's a live living cell. The stem cells release messengers that are called exosomes. So what we do is we provide those exosomes to people who either need it for anti-aging, but one of the biggest things that has happened is all of these parents who have had children that have autism. This is something that has just been wild. Parents with children who have autism have been going to our doctors and saying, hey, my children are non-communicative, they can't speak, they're frustrated, they can't stay calm, like all of these types of things that you'll see on the autism spectrum disorder. And the doctor has provided, if the child is too young, a nebulizer, so a device where they can vaporize the exosomes, okay? Number two is they'll provide it in an IV, okay? These are both 15, 20-minute treatments. But the things with exosomes are they're about 1/100th of the size of a stem cell, and they can pierce the brain-blood barrier, okay? So it can actually go up there. Autism spectrum disorder, the best way to describe it is imagine a ton of traffic that's going on in the brain, and exosomes come, and they clear the traffic so the brain can do exactly what it needs to do. So I've had the honor of working with Mel and our team and watching these families come to us crying and saying, my children can speak now. They can talk. I've got videos of the kids saying daddy for the first time. I've got all of these stories from all these parents who are finally saying there is hope for autism, and we're able to do that here in the United States. So in the state of Florida, it's used for experimental use, and I need to make that very, very clear. Number one, I'm not a doctor. I speak about a lot of stuff, but I'm not a doctor. Yeah. You need to have a doctor that explains it thoroughly, and the doctor that we have isn't speaking about hypothetically, but has actually treated children with autism. exosomes are experimental, and that has to be very, very clear. So unless you are FDA approved, which we don't know if exosomes and stem cells will ever become FDA approved. You can probably guess the reasons why and what it would happen to other industries, but either way, it's not FDA approved. But what we do know is we have tons of testimonials from parents whose children are now saying, hey, these children have had all of these improvements very quickly. So that to me is the anti-aging biohacking is phenomenal. Okay, I use exosomes probably every 4 months. I've noticed it in everything: testosterone levels, sleep rates. I have measurements on everything. I do DEXA scans. My age on my driver's license is 43. My DEXA scan came back at 36. So I'm now reverting my organ health. Okay, that's great. But for a parent who has a child that is on the autism spectrum disorder, this isn't about improving. It's about life changing.
Well, you guys are fighting autism on a personal and professional level.
Absolutely.
So it's been trending lately because it's in the news everywhere. Yeah. So is Tylenol what's causing it?
This is the first time I've ever heard about the Tylenol thing.
This is the first time you heard about it?
It's when the president mentioned it, I was like, I've heard a lot of things before. It could be. It very well could be. Okay, but I don't think.
To say that this bottle is not causing, when the mother's drinking from a plastic bottle.
And that's exactly what I was going to. It could be, but the thing is, there's so many things that you could throw out there as the cause. I don't know if we are going to be able to establish a direct cause of what is causing autism to every child. But what we can do is we can try and figure out what are the mitigating factors now. How do we, especially before they're 10 years of age, most likely before they're 5 years, their brains are still sponges. Mm-hmm. So at that point, the things that we're watching these children, I mean, you've got to see the testimonials from parents. You've got to see these videos. You've got to meet the children. We've met these children who in the beginning couldn't sit down. And now it's like, we had one interview where the child interrupted the mom during a video and was like, I just want to say I love you. And went and sat down, and everyone loses it. Like, you're watching it firsthand. That there's a way to mitigate. We're not saying that this cures. That's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is parents who are working with children on the autism spectrum disorder would give anything for a 1% increase. For their child to be calmer, for them to be able to live a life that's even slightly better than what it is right now. And that's what we're looking at, that these results from exosomes are showing us right now.
Well, when you take the products and the services that you guys are offering and you interject that with AI, now that AI is becoming so big, is there now extra hope? How do you guys feel with AI coming into your business?
So right now we're using LLMs, right? So large learning models. So AI is using all of the data that's out there and it's comprising it. That is great, but what we're waiting for is general intelligence, okay? So Google with their quantum machines, they're able to get to general intelligence. We're not there. We may not get there till 5 years, but when that happens, we'll be able to cure everything. Every single thing will be cured. That is no longer using the data that we have. It's using general intelligence where it will tell us issues that we didn't even know about.
Right. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching our podcast today with Ricky and Melissa. We had a lot of good stuff that we haven't even covered yet. Like, I wanted to know more entrepreneur stuff. That's what this podcast was supposed to be about, but we didn't get there. And there's ayahuasca. Like, we're gonna have to run this one back, you know. And definitely, I really wanted to know, because the big stigma I think out there for people is you graduate as a lawyer and you graduate in medical field and you're gonna be rich, and that's not how it works, right? And I would love to go back and touch up on that, because people have this thing and I always want to know, when it comes to doctors or people in the medical field and lawyers, what's more important? Is it more important to be a good lawyer or a good salesperson, a good businessman, you know? And I think you touched on that, you know? You graduate in the 50th percentile and you achieved a lot of success.
Okay, so I've been asked to do podcasts many times, and whenever I get on them, I ask myself, what is the reason for getting on this podcast? And I will tell you something that you've probably never heard before on this podcast. Jay Cuza. This is so important. This man, the integrity that this man has, a decade ago, referred a case to me to handle. And we handled that case very, very well. This was for an athlete. Jay was pretty much like the guardian for this athlete. And even after all of this was finished, this individual went pro, came back to Jay, and I remember this because I was in there. This isn't a story Jay told me. And the individual said to Jay, hey, all of that time that you helped me out, all those things that you did for me, here's a checkbook. How much do I owe you? This man could have asked for any amount and they would have wrote a check for it. And he told him right there, I was there for this. And he told them nothing. I did it out of my heart. I'm here because that's a good man. And I know a lot of the conversations about the participants, but I want to make sure that I ended it by letting you know this guy is the real deal, not just on video, not just what you see out there, but behind the scenes where no one knows this. I know this. That's a good man.
Another thing that I want to add in everything that we've talked about is, don't settle for this is your diagnosis. There are so many other things that we don't know about. There's so much research out there that we can be doing, so much research that we could be doing and giving back to our children. Do it for your children. Do it for yourself. I must have won the lottery because my husband is not only an amazing father to all 3 of his kids, he's an amazing husband. He is an entrepreneur. And an amazing friend, an amazing son. He will literally give you the shirt off his back if he doesn't know you. And honestly, they're out there. Believe me.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today on South Beach Strategy with Ricky and Melissa. This was just part 1. Get ready for part 2. We're going to have to buy some new equipment that can last. We're going to need like 2-3 hours. We might be at Costa Rica on location for the ayahuasca. We didn't even talk about ayahuasca.
No, we need to talk about ayahuasca.
We didn't even talk about we all came ready to do ayahuasca. We didn't get to talk about it. It's nothing. So watch part 2. It's going to be, we're going to have to reschedule this and run this back. Maybe we can do something, bring the IVs I didn't get no IV. I didn't get nothing. You guys came with no gifts. That Mikey said, we could have done the IVs. We could have been doing all that while we shot. So we could, or we could do it, maybe do it on location at you guys' place. Like
we can bring the IV. Jay, thank you so much for having us here. This was a lot of fun. Can't wait to continue the conversation.
Yes, definitely.